This sleek looking fella right here is the all new Zenbook Air. Sorry, I meant the Zenbook A14. And its main party trick is, well, it's light. Very light at 978 grams, and it features new Snapdragon silicon. But to be honest, that's kind of it. I mean, sure, you get an OLED and it's the first laptop in Asus's lineup to be completely made from Ceralunium. But unfortunately, it does not quite deliver the same qualities in some areas we are used to seeing from the Zenbook family. And battery life is also not as long as we hoped it would be. But if you're a student who simply wants to take notes in class and wants a simple and streamlined YouTube machine, or you want an office notebook with a bit more style than your average ThinkPad, and all of this in a package you barely notice in your backpack, then this one might still be the one for you if you can live with some compromises along the road. As I've already mentioned, the base model of the A14 can be yours with the new entry-level Qualcomm Snapdragon X1 26100, 32 gigs of RAM and a 1TB SSD. While the amount of RAM and storage is quite generous, given the 60Hz 1200p OLED and the relatively basic SoC, the price is a bit of a head-scratcher. It seems like you're basically paying a premium for the low weight here. That is definitely what makes the A14 special, but for me personally, the reduction in weight also comes with a slightly less premium feel. It's not that the Zenbook looks or feels cheap, but sometimes if something has a little more heft to it, it also feels better, if you know what I mean. It does not really help that the hinges are very loose and therefore the display flops around when you pick this one up. Overall though, structural rigidity is really good with barely any flex around the chassis. The Ceralunium material feels a bit less awesome than on the bigger S14 and S16 Protas and a bit plasticky, very much like those magnesium alloy chassis than what you would get with an aluminium body. We have absolutely nothing to complain about I/O, and in typical Asus fashion, you get a pretty generous assortment with dual USB-C 4s, HDMI 2.1, an audio jack and a USB-A 3.2 Gen 2 on the opposite side. Wireless transfers are very snappy as well, and the 1080p webcam, well, it's a webcam. While the Zenbook is very light, it's definitely not the thinnest notebook within this class. But this might not necessarily be a disadvantage, since below the bottom panel you get access to a swappable standard NVMe SSD and the battery is also screwed, allowing potential future repairs and upgrades. The inputs are a bit of a mixed bag. The keyboard itself is not really bad, but usually the Zenbooks offer better feedback. So for me personally, it took a while to get used to this one, even though the travel itself is quite generous. Again, thanks to the slightly thicker chassis. The touchpad works very well though, and we did not encounter any problems during our testing. There's not that much to say about the display. It's an OLED and again, it offers the usual advantages and trade-offs inherent to this particular panel tech. So while brightness could be better and you have to be a bit careful with reflections, contrast and color gamut coverage are awesome. And as per usual, Asus's factory calibration is almost class leading and on reference level. The Zenbook is very far from being a performance laptop, and given that you still have to deal with some compatibility issues with more specialized software when opting for Qualcomm's Snapdragon silicon, you should be aware that the A14 is much more aimed at the casual user. The X1 26100 is an 8-core CPU at its core, but it has to make do without any form of boost functionality. Even then, it performs well enough in our performance testing, just do not expect any Cinebench records with this one. Our system performance test tells a similar story, with relatively low numbers compared to what is out there, but subjectively you do not really feel it doing tasks the A14 is intended for, be it YouTube, writing, general productivity or a Netflix binge-watching marathon. Speaking of virtual entertainment, as with all Snapdragon CPUs for now, GPU performance is definitely not their strong suit, be it in synthetic tests or the real world. You might get by with older or less demanding titles or the occasional indie game, but everything that is even slightly demanding will not deliver a great experience. Which I would say is okay, since the Zenbook is hardly aimed at gamers. When it comes to fan noise, the Zenbook is also a bit of a head-scratcher. It comes with two fans, but only one of them is actually connected to a heat pipe, so the other one is probably just tasked with ventilating the case. And despite the relatively efficient CPU, you can almost always hear one of them. This does not turn the Zenbook into a leaf blower, but it's audible and not silent, which is a real bummer. But please let me know what you think. We recorded some samples for you so you can make up your own mind. Away from the wall we get very solid but not amazing runtimes, which feels a bit wrong to say since almost 15 hours in our simulated web surfing test is actually pretty nuts. But the Zenbook does not exist in a vacuum, and Asus's VivoBook S14, whether with AMD's Strix-Point CPU or Intel's Lunar Lake, can last a bit longer in comparison. Still, whatever you plan to do with the A14, you can do it for quite some time, just do not expect any record-breaking runtimes. Alright, my fellow notebook aficionados, this is the new Zenbook A14, and while you will have to live with some compromises, if you're looking for one of the lightest devices for all of your everyday computing needs, this puppy is a solid option. It's not all sunshine and rainbows though. The hinges could be stiffer, the keyboard needs a minute to get used to, and the Snapdragon X's overall performance figures aren't particularly amazing. But if you are after a stylish Netflix, university or office machine, the A14 will do the trick. Just keep in mind that even Asus has quite some competition within its ranks, and the VivoBook S14 for example, either in its Intel or AMD flavor, might be a bit heavier, but offers a much more flexible computing companion overall. If you are interested in those, make sure to check out our written reviews on the website. That should be it from my end today. Please leave your like and sub if you were entertained, and let me know what you think about super light laptops. And feel free to check out some of our other videos if you simply cannot get enough about tech and laptops. Thanks a ton for watching. My name is Alex, you have been awesome, and I cannot wait to see you all in the next one. Take care.